Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Module 4 already of 1100. So I hope you all had a good night's rest last night after a busy lab weekend and then wrapping it all up with a quiz. So overall, I was really impressed with the quiz. I thought you all had a great understanding of everything from this weekend and reviewing all of the materials. So I just wanted to talk through some of the more confusing points and then also talk about what happened with the grading last night and what I decided to do with some of the questions that I thought were a little confusing just from the material and then our discussions this weekend. So overall, there were two questions that I felt weren't as clear from the material and then our discussions over the weekend. So I was considering those for extra credit. I flagged those to go back and review. Blackboard graded those as is and sent them out. So that's why you got one score and then a few seconds later a second score. So I do apologize for that. I settled on having one of those be extra credit and one of those be graded as it was in the first place. So that second score that you received is the final score. So Blackboard 1, me 0. Sorry about that. The two of those questions I will explain why I was looking at those. So I'm going to read the question to you. The first was, for a patient using low rate TENS, how would you describe the expected sensation of the TENS treatment and what is the mechanism of pain relief? So for low rate TENS, we had talked about this a lot this weekend as far as like, do you need a visible muscle contraction? Is it something that you can go by what the patient's telling you? So the different options in the question were combinations of visible muscle contraction, strong tingling sensation. So that's why I made it extra credit, because I think you all know what the low rate TENS should feel like, but maybe after the discussion this weekend, it wasn't as clear. Every single one of you picked endogenous opioid and you did not pick gate theory. So that's why I was thinking they know what they're talking about. It's maybe just a little bit confusing as far as what the patient should feel. Should it be truly visible? I think that was the confusing part of the question, because it doesn't have to be visible. So that's why that question is extra credit, because I think you guys truly understood the nature behind that question. The other one that I toyed around with and ended up leaving it as is was the one about HVPC. So this one said, in which situation would high volt pulse current be appropriate? The correct answer was that the patient has a small wound that is slow to heal. The other question, or the option that a lot of you picked, was about a ankle fusion that was immobilized after surgery. So we talked about joints that have been immobile or are not contracting, and that's why edema happens. But it's more when the muscle is unable to contract, not as much because of a forced immobilization from surgery. So it's more when the muscle itself is unable to contract. So I kind of went back and forth on whether that really fit our discussion, but I decided to keep that one because a lot of you did seem to understand the difference, that the biggest use for that is really for wound healing. It wouldn't be used as much post-surgery. So I apologize again for that score differential, but I wanted to explain that one. So again, big takeaway for HVPC, mostly used for wound healing. In adjunct with wound healing, it can be used to prevent edema formation, to speed up wound healing, or to prevent a wound forming in the first place if there is a risk of wound healing. One of the other options that only a few of you picked was about reducing edema for congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure, you haven't learned about this, but that's a whole different ball game of edema that has nothing to do with any localized area of edema. So that's why that would not be an appropriate option for that question. So overall, great job on the quiz. And again, if you would like to review your quiz answers, come to office hours or feel free to email me for a time to set up. Let's see. I'm going to pull up my agenda for other things I wanted to talk about for today. Okay, so for Module 4, take a deep breath because there's not as much coming at you this week. You have 2 articles about traction, 1 chapter in the book to read, and then 3 videos just about lesser known modalities. So kind of take a breath, take the time to learn about those other modalities, but try not to slow down too much on the other ones. Kind of go back and stay refreshed on those so that when you come back to lab and studying for the final that comes 2 days after your lab practical, that you just stay really up to date and don't have to cram for those study sessions. You really just get to know that material. And just be aware that between the editions 4 and 5 of this book, the traction chapter changed. So in edition 5, it's chapter 19, I believe, and I think it was 18 in the last edition. So just be aware that that's really the only thing that changed between editions 4 and 5, but you might see that the traction chapter is off if you bought the hard copy of edition 4, so that's different from your online version. And then per your request, I changed it in the calendar for the next 2 weeks. That discussion post can be due, the initial one on Wednesday. Obviously, if you want to submit it sooner and be done with it, great. And that follow-up discussion post will then be due on Saturday at midnight. So overall, great work this weekend, guys. I was really impressed with the questions you were asking, the depth that you were going, the patience you had when we told you, you're kind of getting in the weeds. But overall, you guys did a really great job. You were patient with yourselves, and it was really fun to see how well you were doing by the end of the weekend. It was a ton of information that you guys absorbed. So keep up the good work. You're almost through this class already, week 4 out of 5.5. So keep up the good work. And as always, you know where to find me for questions, and I will see you in live class on Thursday. Have a great rest of your day.